Okay, so for today's fluency, you have two isolation problems. The first one is asking you to find the sum of 14, 6 and 31 hundredths, and 765 thousandths. Okay, so the word sum, we know, is the answer to an addition problem. So I know that I'm adding. And when I add decimal points, I know I have to line up the digits and the decimal points. Okay, so I start off with 14. And like I said, whole numbers, the decimal point is always behind your last number that you place. So your whole number would be your last number you placed was at 4, so the decimal point goes after it. And I always place 2 zeros as placeholders unless I need to add more later on. So I put my 2 zeros to make 14. Then I line up my decimal point for 6 and 31 hundredths. So my 6 is in the ones place. So my 6 goes under the 4 in the ones place. My 3 is in the tens place. So I put my 3 underneath the 0 that's in the tens place. My 1 is in the hundredths place. So I put my 1 under the 0 that's in the hundredths place. Let me move my bar down a little bit so I can place my 765 thousandths. So again, place my decimal point lined up. Put my 0 underneath my 6. Put my 7 in the tenths place under the 3 in the tens place. My 6 in the hundredths place underneath the 1 in the hundredths place. And then you have the 5 in the thousandths place. So I'll put my 5. Now if you notice, there's not a 0 above it. There's not either number. So for that, I'm going to put a 0 as placeholders to make sure that I stay in the right place value when I begin to add. Let me move that over a little bit. And I'm going to put my 0 here. So now that I have my numbers all lined up and my decimal points are lined up, the first thing I do before I start to add is drop my decimal point down. So I drop it down. I'm going to put my addition sign here. So I start to add 0 plus 0 plus 5, 5. 0 plus 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 3 plus 0 is 10. And bring up my 1. 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 0 is 11. So I put my 1. And then I bring up my 1. And I have 1 plus 1, which is 2. So my answer for what is the sum of 14, 6 and 31 hundredths, and 765 thousandths is 21 and 75 thousandths. So your next problem is asking you what is the product of 19 and 4 tenths and 2 and 3 tenths. So product is one of our new words that we've been learning. And product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, so our problem on Friday for our writing prompt is going to be finding the product of two numbers. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to this so we can do a good job on our writing on Friday. So your first thing that you do when you are finding the product is you count how many numbers are behind the decimal point. So I'm looking here and I see a 4 that's behind the decimal point, and I see a 3 that is behind the decimal point. So if there's a 4 and a 3, that is 2 numbers that are behind the decimal point. So I count 1, 2. So then I put 2 in a bubble off to the side. And then now I'm going to write those numbers as if they're whole numbers. So I have 19, oops, and then I just put the 4 after it because remember I said we took the decimal points out so we can multiply. And then I'm going to put and I line up my digits, the 2, as if they were whole numbers. And then I am multiplying. Now, again, if you struggle with multiplication, you have your multiplication table that you can click on and open up. But if you're good with your facts, then let's begin. 3 times 4, 12. So I put my 2 underneath the 3, and I bring up my 1 to the 9. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 plus 1 is 28. So I put my 8 below the place value that I was multiplying with. And I put my 2 up above the 1. So now I do 3 times 1 is 3. And then you got to add the 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. So I put a 5. So now you notice that we are done with the 3. We multiplied it by the 4, the 9, and the 1. However, you still have this 2 here. So that means you have to add another row in your problem. So I say another number, another row, means I cross off this 3. I don't use it anymore. I'm done with it. And then I have now a 2. But if you notice, the 2 is in the tens place value, so you want to stay in the tens place value. So you have to put a 0 below to stay in the right place value. So I put my 0 down, and now I begin to multiply 2 as if I did with the 3. 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 9 is 18. So I put my 8. And I'll bring up my 1. And if it helps you, delete the 2 so you know that you're not using it. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So now you are going to add those numbers up. You're going to add those up now. Because you're done with your 2, you have no more numbers to multiply. So now we can add. 2 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 8 is 16. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 8 is 14. Bring up the 1. And then you have 3 plus 1, which is 4. So now that we've multiplied and we finished our problem, we have this 2 that's in our bubble. So we need to make sure that we now move that decimal point back into our problem. So your decimal point technically is right here at the end because that's a whole number. So our decimal point is behind when we have a whole number. But we have to move it 2 times because that's how many decimal points we have behind our digits when we are multiplying. So we have to move it twice. So we swoop twice to the left. Swoop once, swoop twice. So your new answer is 44 and 62 hundredths. And I'll move my numbers over a little bit so you can see that the decimal point goes in between our 4 and 6 because I moved it twice. Okay, so there's our new answer.